Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Opposition blasts tourism minister over misleading Emirates airline flight announcement. Experts react to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's speech during first official visit to Jamaica. And later in sports, Day 3 of Issa Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships continues at the National Stadium. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Ann Simpson. Here are the details. Opposition spokesperson on tourism and linkages Janice Allen is blasting Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett for what she describes as inaccurate and misleading. An announcement made that Emirates Airline will be launching flights to Jamaica. She is calling on the tourism minister to come clean. On Wednesday, Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett revealed that Emirates Airline is set to begin flights from Dubai to Montego Bay, Jamaica starting April. A publication was also made by the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority of particulars of application for license to operate scheduled air service between United Arab Emirates and Jamaica via Germany.
As early as 2021, I met with the chairman of Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum, and his team, along with my team. And we started working with the NATO and other travel partners in the area to build out an arrangement that would allow for Emirates to fly to Jamaica as the opening up of the Caribbean link.
Mr. Bartlett says Emirates will partner with Condor Airlines for the flight, which will operate twice weekly. But opposition spokesperson on tourism and linkages Janice Allen says this announcement is simply untrue.
What actually happened is that Condor, a German airline, announced a new route to Jamaica. Now Condor, no stranger to Jamaica, does have a strategic alliance with Emirates, but that does not mean Emirates is flying here. To suggest otherwise is misleading and disingenuous.
She said the announcement is political.
Our tourism workers, businesses, and stakeholders deserve honesty about airlift and investment. The minister must come clean and correct the record. Jamaica is a world-class destination, and we must protect our credibility on the global stage. We need real direct flights, not misleading headlines. It's time for transparency in how we communicate tourism developments. Jamaicans deserve the truth.
It is why Ms. Allen says the minister should immediately correct the record and commit to ensuring that future communications reflect facts and not fiction. Experts are reacting to the announcements made by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio at yesterday's joint press briefing at Jamaica House. Mr. Rubio is currently in Jamaica on a 2-day working visit. Details in this report.
The U.S. and Jamaica have been engaged in bilateral talks on various issues, including illegal immigration, crime, and economic partnerships with Caribbean nations. So far, the discussions have been promising for both countries.
The main thought that I do have relates to that, it's just basically a continuation of what U.S. Caribbean relations have been, which is largely focused on security and followed by maybe some humanitarian aid, support for economic issues, and as well as, our energy interests.
I noticed also a certain acknowledgement on the need to do more to control the flow of firearms into the Caribbean. Now, whether or not that will actually lead to some positive action on the part of the United States remains to be seen, but I was glad at least he acknowledged it.
But Dr. Warmington Granston is concerned about funding for some of the initiatives discussed.
We know that USAID has been frozen, and a lot of the programs across the region depended on this funding. And we know that, unlike other places, when you have a 90-day cutoff, there are a lot of vulnerable programs within Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean that would have issues because they depend on it for regular funding to maintain their staff and other programs, to pay managers. So that's where I'm concerned. I know they're talking about restructuring. I'm just wondering how long would that restructuring be done so that these programs that are dealing with, as you said, security, as well as health and youth development. How can that all come into place?
However, independent defense analyst and attorney from Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Sanjay Padri Maharaj, believes the freeze on foreign aid will not be lifted anytime soon.
What will happen to funding? I mean, USAID right now is in absolute turmoil, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. I think there's going to be a dramatic curtailment of a lot of programs. Now, I come from a country where it's far less evident. USAID projects are far less evident and far less necessary. But I think that's one aspect that the Caribbean has to look out for. Anyone depending on any money from the U.S., be very wary about it. It's likely to dry up and look for other sources of funding. I'm not at all surprised on his stance on the Cuban doctors. Even before he entered the Trump administration, Secretary then Marco Rubio has always been very, very hard on the Cuban government. So I'm not surprised at all at his statements there.
They were both guests on RJR's Beyond the Headlines on Wednesday. Antonia Atkinson, TVJ News.
To other news, St. Elizabeth has experienced a decline in several major crimes for the period January 1 to March 25. Head of the St. Elizabeth Police, Acting Superintendent Coleridge Minto, shared the figures at a recent function.
So far, shootings are down by 50%. Rape is down by 71%. Robbery down by 72%. And murders down by 78%.
However, there has been an increase in break-ins. Nevertheless, he says a strategy is in place to address this issue.
There are those among us who do not wish to work, and they prey on individuals who have their businesses, particularly, or bar operators or small business persons, and they have been breaking a number of our bars in this parish. And I won't share too much of the strategy, but it is discussed at our management and tasking meetings, and the parish will expect to see some increased activities surrounding these individuals who are breaking into persons' premises.
2 men were arrested Thursday morning after they were found with illegal firearms and ammunition in Patrick City, St. Andrew. The identities of the men have not yet been released. They have been charged with possession of a prohibited weapon and unauthorized possession of ammunition. The incident happened around 12:30 a.m. Thursday. According to reports, the St. Andrew Police, acting on intelligence, conducted a search on Auburn Road where they observed the men inside a bar. Upon noticing the police, the 2 men reportedly began acting suspiciously. The officers requested to search them, during which both men were found carrying prohibited weapons, each loaded with 5 9mm cartridges. The weapons and ammunition were confiscated, and both men were arrested and charged. Airbnb will be a critical driver in the full democratization of the tourism sector. That's according to State Minister for Tourism, Senator Delano Seavright. He was speaking during a recent interview with TVJ News.
The Airbnb sector contributes billions of dollars to the country's economy. State Minister for Tourism, Senator Delano Seavright, says this sector is expanding, with more visitors recognizing Jamaica as a prime tourist destination.
When Airbnb started in Jamaica, we actually visited, myself and Minister Bartlett and a team visited Airbnb headquarters and met with the top executives there in San Francisco, California in about 2017. In that year, we had about 59,000 Airbnb guests in Jamaica. In terms of guest stays in Jamaica, last year we had over 800,000 Airbnb guest stays in Jamaica, bringing 32 billion Jamaican dollars in revenues to the Airbnb space.
Mr. Seavright says this industry significantly benefits the local economy as Airbnb properties are typically owned and operated by locals.
Most Airbnbs are owned by locals, operated by locals, cleaned by locals, supported by locals, maintained by locals. So we've been very supportive of that, and we believe that's going to be a critical driver in ensuring the full democratization of tourism as we know it. Beyond that, we continue to encourage businesses and others to find more attractions, open up more attractions as our road network continues to improve in terms of our highways and so on. It's going to open up new opportunities.
He says with the expansion of the North and South Coast highways and toll roads, greater opportunities are being created for the tourism sector.
The expansion of the North Coast roadways and so on, of course, the building of a bypass to bypass Hopewell and Lucy to address the traffic concerns here. The fact is these developments, including the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project that impacted St. Thomas and impacted Clarendon and Manchester, these improvements are giving a lot more accessibility and a lot more of an ability for visitors to move around, which means we need more attractions, more developments, more spaces for visitors to go to.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us, more stories when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, Michael Belnavis, has sought to restore calm among taxi operators in Discovery Bay after they withdrew their service on Monday and threatened to take more serious protest actions. It comes as the taxi operators bemoaned the ordeal of operating without a transport center for months now. 24 hours after the protest, Mr. Belnavis toured the site where he says a new transportation center will be constructed.
The reason why I'm here today is to get a feel, along with myself and the superintendent of roads and works, get a feel for what is it that is here, walk, get a feel for the square footage, look at the egress, get a feel for the level of traffic, and also get a feel for what is it that the taximen have been calling out for, get a feel for what are their concerns.
He promised the drivers that within the next several months, they will be able to operate from the new facility.
We're expected to get some funding from the Ministry of Transport and Works, some from the Backside folks have told us that they will assist us. So we're looking to get fencing and so on installed by them, and of course the Municipal Corporation will be looking to use some of its own source funding to see how is it that we can make our contribution also.
It's now time for the Business Minute. Reuters News is reporting that Accelerate Energy is close to acquiring New Fortress Energy Jamaica for around $1.1 billion. If finalized, the all-cash deal could be announced soon, expanding Accelerate's LNG infrastructure in countries like Bangladesh, Brazil, Finland, and Pakistan. According to the report, the acquisition also helps New Fortress address financial struggles by offloading assets, including Jamaica's Montego Bay and Old Harbor terminals and the Clarendon power plant. New Fortress aims to raise $2 billion from asset sales to reduce its $8.4 billion debt. Further afield, support for a TikTok ban has dropped over the last 2 years. According to a new Research Center survey, 34% of U.S. adults would support a ban. That's down from 50% in March of 2023. 32% now oppose a ban, while 33% are unsure. Americans who support a ban have major concerns about data security and Chinese ownership, while those who support it feel a ban could threaten their free speech. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Prime Minister Philip J. Pear has unveiled St. Lucia's largest ever budget, proposing $2.06 billion for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. He highlighted strong economic performance, including low unemployment and growth in tourism and foreign investment. However, he warned that global instability, such as conflicts and rising costs, may impact these projections. On the international scene, a Supreme Court panel ruled on Wednesday that former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro will face trial for allegedly plotting to overthrow the government after losing the 2022 election. If convicted, he could receive a lengthy prison sentence. Bolsonaro strongly denied the charges, calling them baseless. He also accuses the judges of having a personal vendetta. During the proceedings, footage was shown of Bolsonaro's supporters storming government buildings after President Lula's inauguration in January 2023. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Antonia Atkinson.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.